Projections in QGIS are a relatively straightforward affair. You have a projection that defines the coordinate system anytime you open a map panel. Now, the first time you open a map panel, so you will have a coordinate system defined, and they'll show the coordinate system here. Now, the current coordinate system, the way my system's set up, comes up to a WGS 84, and it gives these default latitude, longitude coordinates. So I can go ahead and look at the project properties and see what the current coordinate system is. In this case, it shows that this panel here that lists the coordinate systems that have been used recently, the coordinate systems I can select, and the current coordinate system selected with its definition below. Now I got to make sure that when I open it up, I highlight this CRS to show the coordinate reference system. There's also this important piece here called Enable on the Fly CRS Transformation. Right up here, I can click that on or off, and I'll show how that comes into effect later on. Now, when I go ahead and add some data here, so I'm going to add some vector data, and it will allow me to select some vector data, and so I can go ahead and select just any old data and open it. The data get displayed, and you see the coordinate system changes to those data that I first add. And so if I look in my project properties again, I can see that basically it selected this new coordinate system of the data, and that's okay. Now notice this Enable on the Fly CRS transformation isn't selected yet, isn't turned on, so I can add some more data now. And let's find some different data here. I'll add US 48 Mercator and open. And you can see then that it loads these data on top of the existing data or with the existing data. And it's funny, but if you go to look at the project properties, it automatically has turned on this Enable on the Fly CRS transformation because it noticed that the coordinate system of this new data was different from the coordinate system for the old data, and it assumed that I wanted those data to overlap. So it shows them both together. I can go up here and zoom to the full extent. It shows the US data and then the Minnesota data aligned. It assumed I wanted them to align. So if I go to project properties and I turn this off, right, and I apply it, I can now then zoom to the full extent and see these data are not coincident because they're different coordinate systems. So I have a projection, and there's two projections or three or several kinds I have to worry about. The first one is the projection that sits in the canvas in the map area I'm displaying. I can always find that by looking at project properties here to see what the current map canvas coordinate system is. And then there are the coordinate systems for each of my data layers. So if I left click on the data layer, then right click and open the data properties, and I can go to the general. Here I can see that there's a coordinate system for the data layer. So my Min County Albers is in this Albers coordinate system. This EPSG, the number is 5075. It's an old designator that a group of petroleum engineers developed to keep track of the coordinate types. And so there's this 5070 is a unique number for this particular coordinate system. So I can look at my other data and see its coordinate system here again. So I left click on the data in the table of contents, and then I right click to open this panel, and I can show the properties. And again, I can look, if I go to the general tab, at the coordinate system here. This is a World Mercator specific definition, EPSG 54004. So I can see that they have different coordinate systems, and if I want them to align together, I can go to the project properties and make sure I have this Enable on the Fly CRS. What it does is it says, okay, I have a canvas coordinate system. Any data that are in a different coordinate system, if I can, I will project to this canvas coordinate system temporarily. So between reading the data off the disk or permanent storage and writing it to the screen, I look at the input and the output coordinates, and I apply an appropriate map coordinate transformation or a projection to get those data to align. So if I turn this on again and hit apply and hit OK, I see that my data line up and I can zoom to my data. Well, that's okay for display, but for some operations I need to have the data in the same coordinate system. So I can convert to any coordinate system I want by using a map projection and permanently saving the data, and I'll show you how to do that. So if I want to do an overlay or some operations, they don't automatically notice that the two data sets you might be bringing together are in different coordinate systems, and they might go along and do the operation but fail in giving you the data you want because the data don't align correctly. So if I wanted to project, for example, these Minnesota County, I could left-click on them, right-click on them, and in this Save As, so I can left-click on Save As, and I will get a window here that allows me to save these to a new coordinate system. And so I can browse and just call these my new coord min. I would give it a descriptive name. And I want to select the coordinate reference system for the output. So this is the output CRS. It knows the input already because it's written into the file, or should be. And I can browse then to a selected CRS, and I have a similar window to the one I had before. Now this is a little bit of a goofy window. You have to be careful to select one. So for example, if I wanted to convert this to the world Mercator of the other data, I could go ahead and basically left click on, and sometimes I have to left click on the name over here to select it. And it shows the new data description, the coordinate system description down here in this funny string that's explained in the lab. Now there are a couple of things you want to know about this before you hit OK. Sometimes you have a hard time finding the coordinate system you want because the list is pretty long. It keeps here a list of the ones previously used or recently used. You can click on those to find them, but if you want to use one you haven't used in a while or it doesn't show in this list, you can filter. So for example, if I wanted to find one of the UTM coordinates systems, I could type UTM here, and down below it lists just the UTM coordinate system, so I could search through them and find UTMs if that's what I was looking for. Or if I wanted to find a Minnesota coordinate system, right, it lists up here the recent ones that had Minnesota in the name and the ones down below that had Minnesota in the name. So I can use this filter to find coordinate systems that I haven't used recently. I can also hide what are called deprecated CRSs. I think they should probably do the reverse and have this to click open to show deprecated, because usually you don't want to look at these old coordinate systems that haven't been used in a while. So in any event, I use these tools to select the coordinate system, make sure it's selected here and hit OK. And then when I basically hit OK, because these options are the standard ones, it will save a copy of this world Mercator into, the copy of these data, this new coord min will have the world Mercator. So I'm going to output my Minnesota in a world Mercator coordinate system. So I'll hit OK here. And it does it. Now I could go ahead and display the data, add the data. Here, browse my new min shape and open. And it won't really look that different because it's in with on-the-fly projection, but I could go ahead here then, and in the project properties, turn off enable on-the-fly and hit OK. Apply and OK, I should say. And now I see, oh yeah, here's my original data. Right, this is the Min County Albers. And then here's my projected data that falls exactly where it should. This is my new coordinate min that I projected. And so now they line up without any on-the-fly projection. And again, for display, it's immaterial, but for some operations, you have to have the data. For a lot of operations, you have to have the data in the same coordinate system. So again, I use this left click, table of contents, right click, save as, and I define then the output name, the output CRS, and I select my coordinate system, my CRS, and then do the OK to save it. Now, if you have a bunch to do, there's this other option where you can use the project CRS, or the project CRS, I should say. So I could set the CRS for the project, set it for the canvas, and it will grab it automatically and output it every time. So I could do that for a bunch of data layers if I wanted. It might be a little bit quicker. So there you have it, and that's how you project.